It is 1:01. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The NFL's legal tampering period continues, and the AFC South is making headlines as quarterback Daniel Jones is signing with the Indianapolis Colts on a one-year deal. The 2019 first-round pick of the New York Giants was released by New York in the middle of the 2024 regular season and joined the Minnesota Vikings practice squad. He will now have a chance to compete for the starting job in Indy with 2023 first-round pick Anthony Richardson. The Texans are trading away 2022 first-round pick Kenyon Green to the Eagles for safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson. This is the second starting offensive lineman the Texans have traded away this week after dealing left tackle Laramie Tunsil to the Commanders a couple of days ago. The Tennessee Vols baseball team back on the diamond tonight as they host West Georgia for a midweek matchup with SEC play just on the horizon. The Vols have an undefeated 16-0 start to the season to this point and will look to continue that against the Wolves in this one. First pitch scheduled for 3:30 p.m. For our foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Two with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation. Free agency is still going on. I guess it's still technically the legal tampering period, but I guess you would say the first wave of free agency has come and gone. And yesterday, day one of free agency, had all kinds of moves and everything that affect the AFC South, that affect the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans were able to find a left tackle. They were able to find an inside linebacker. They still need a wide receiver, a slot wide receiver, a right guard, a safety, an edge, another edge, a kicker, a punter, and a bridge quarterback at this moment. So they still need all that stuff.
We need a punter?
They need a punter because they have yet, now they still have time, but they have yet to tender Ryan Stonehouse. They've tendered all these other people. They have yet to tender Ryan Stonehouse. So one of two things. They could be working on a multi-year deal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or and you have until tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, Tennessee Titans do, to get that tag done or a new deal done. If not, he becomes an unrestricted free agent. So we'll see.
What's the range he should be at, you think?
Oh, my gosh.
If you would make it a guess.
Like a 2-year, $3 million deal?
$3 million a year
$4
per
million?
year is what I'm getting.
Well, no. I think that's total. Punters don't get paid a lot.
Oh.
Yeah, they get paid. I mean, Brett Kern got paid a lot, but he had years and years of experience. So, we'll see. And maybe Bones Fossil, maybe he doesn't want to tender Ryan Stonehouse. Maybe he wants to find a punter elsewhere. I don't know. But, they technically still need a punter and a kicker on top of all these other needs and everything right now.
I'm glad you said that because it just reminded me, how much input do coaches, let's say coordinators, let's use that more so than anything else, say so on players they want and don't want? Because you just mentioned Fossil may not want Stonehouse because maybe he can't place kick back, as good as he wants.
He doesn't fit the special team strategy that he wants to employ.
So if you're the GM Lions, because you're already the GM anyway.
Don't tell people on our air that people are very upset at me on Twitter right now. So,
Well, it's a number of things you probably have done, so I don't even want to ask what it was.
I don't wave the two-tone blue pom-poms. I just keep it real, and people don't like it.
This is a real show. That's what we do.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
But, go ahead.
So I was going to say, I guess how much say-so should a coach have over decisions that the GM wants to do? Now, naturally, the GM wants to placate to the coaches, but at the end of the day, he can say, but we can work through that. Stonehouse, he's one of the better punters in the NFL.
I kind of look at it like if I were doing it, it would be a situation-by-situation thing. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, if I was in Rand Carthon's situation, right, and Bill Callahan, well-respected offensive line coach, came to me and said, hey, I think I can work with NPF. I would say, no, you cannot. Let me tell you, we have to find a right tackle. You can't work with NPF. I've seen enough as a GM that I've watched enough games. You can outwork with NPF. But I also wouldn't listen to maybe Colt Anderson in a similar situation as I would Bones Fossil, because Bones has been doing it for way longer and Colt is a first time. So I think I look at it as like every situation is a little bit different. I obviously want to get players that fit the scheme. It just may not be the players that they want, because either maybe money gets in the way, or maybe I watched the tape and I don't think that this is the right guy and we can get someone better, which I think you can work better with. Like, at the end of the day, I look at it as a situation by situation thing.
Well,
I don't think there's one sweeping thing.
Right, got you. Yeah, because each individual player's situation is totally different. But what about this? What if you say, as a coach, I don't really like that player in so many words, right?
Yeah.
Let's just use Bill Callahan, O-line with Mr. Moore Jr.
Yeah.
And then you still sign him. What are you then telling your coaching staff?
That situation, you feel like you know more than him. And in that situation, I'd be very surprised. I guess it's kind of it's hard, because I do struggle with what we have seen from Bill Callahan last year. Mm-hmm. And, they were so adamant that J.C. Latham could play left tackle. And now in a few short months later, they're adamant that, okay, well, if we find a left tackle that we think is better than J.C. Latham, we'll put him over to right. And Dan Moore is more experienced. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's technically going to be better at left tackle, but that was the number 2 tackle on your board, maybe even the number 3 player overall. I mean, they had Joe Alt and J.C. Latham, from what I understand, ranked very close together. Mm-hmm. And I look at it and I go, that's obviously gonna be Bill Callahan driven, right? Because you don't ignore that player. So I would assume that because J.C. Latham also kind of fits the mold of what Bill Callahan likes in his offensive lineman. And so it's really hard for me to kind of just be, blind faith, I guess you'd say. Not really blind faith, but undying loyalty to the coaches on this particular team, and maybe in the NFL at large, because at the end of the day, they should be giving you a profile of a player, and you should be going to fit that profile. And I think that if you did that, that probably takes out a lot of favoritism. You get what I'm saying?
I'm going to get to profile. I'm glad you said that, because the rule of thumb in the NFL is the 330 guy goes to right tackle. The 315 guy plays left tackle.
Right.
I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what a lot of coaches and GM kind of follow to a certain extent, if you're kind of divided, on what you should do with which tackle in this situation. But I didn't know that was a thing, to be honest. I just learned that myself. And, it makes sense, because I always would say the more athletic guys, the left tackle, and the right tackle. And
typically your more athletic guys weigh less.
Right, exactly. So it made sense. I just never heard someone break it down that way. So I haven't looked at the rosters. I didn't know if you had heard that or not.
Yeah, I've heard it. I get it. I think that's slowly going away because of how edge players, how most teams, not Tennessee Titans, have 2 edge rushers. The Titans have 0. And so, but they do move them around a lot, right? Like Max Crosby will play probably 200 snaps on one side in a season and 400 on the other. And he's rushing the passer both ways. And so you kind of have to have guys that can do both, especially in today's NFL. So I don't put too much emphasis on weight. For me, it's about wingspan more than anything at tackle. Height is then second. Then I would do weight, because really for J.C. Latham's size, he is, when you watch the tape, he's athletic. And that was the big thing for me, is that when you watch the tape, he looks athletic. We don't have athletic testing. We don't know what kind of 40-yard dash he runs or anything like that. But at the end of the day, I want to see how fast you move on tape. And that's kind of where I'm at on there. Is I understand maybe that's how it's been done
in the past.
But I don't know if that trend is going to hold into the future right now. And I think we're kind of like in that inflection point.
Good point. But I'll be stunned, though, going back to Stonehouse, that they don't sign him.
I would be pretty stunned, but they all got a firsthand look at how coachable is he. I think that's the big thing. because we saw the same issues under Mike Vrabel, the same issues under here with, in today's punting game, you have to be a little bit more directional. You have to have good aim. You have to have the leg, obviously, to a certain extent.
I thought it was more hang time.
Well, I mean, you have to have all that kind of stuff. So, like, to me, I look at it, and they were able to do some of it towards the end of the year. So how much grace did he buy himself? Because not everybody wants to point to, he's got a big leg. Well, there's so much more to punting than just that.
Because he outkicked his coverage. I mean, that became an issue,
So it'll be interesting to see what Bones Fossil sees. Because obviously when you bring in a guy like that, you need to take into account, if you're Mike Bergonzi, what he has to say, what he sees on tape. And then you need to take into account the experience maybe the prior coaching staff had, as far as, because they're mostly still there. So Brian Callahan will know how coachable he is and then make your decision. If you feel that Ryan Stonehouse's number is too high, you got to cut bait with him. I don't think it's a have to sign no matter what kind of deal, but I think I would take a chance on Ryan Stonehouse on a 2-year deal because, I mean, to be honest, I have not watched a single punter prospect this year.
No, me either.
But I will say this, the two that were down at the Senior Bowl for I think it was the American team, were punting into the stands. Like, it was like, put on a helmet, shield yourself when those guys come out of the field. So, like, if that's any indication of what this punting prospect group is. But I do think that they end up tendering him. I just find it curious that they haven't, but I think it's because they're probably just looking to do a deal.
Last question. Do you know the tender?
I believe it is 1.5, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's nothing expensive, I don't think. It may even be a little bit less. But I don't think it's anything outrageous that you couldn't afford if you just wanted to tender him. It's just that maybe they feel he's worth more. I don't know, him and his agent. When we come back, we'll talk about Dan Moore and Cody Barton. Cody Barton was signed after we went off air yesterday, new inside linebacker. And I went through and watched some Russell Wilson era Pittsburgh Steelers tape, and I'll give you my thoughts on Dan Moore. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
Struggling with joint pain, suffering from a recent injury, looking to recover faster after surgery? Well, at Edge, we've got you covered. From powerful peptide stacks like BPC 157 to TB 500 to PRP treatments to stem cell therapy and high film muscle stimulation, Edge Peptide is your go-to solution for faster healing and recovery. And as an athlete myself, I know how frustrating pain and injuries can be. That's why now is the perfect time to take control of your wellness and finally address those nagging issues. Whether it's golf, tennis, or any activity you love, don't let pain hold you back any longer. Edge specializes in regenerative treatments designed to reduce inflammation, promote tissue repair, and improve mobility, helping your body heal naturally while avoiding surgery whenever possible. And right now, we're offering a free $250 consultation with your initial treatment. And all you have to do is just go to edgepeptide.com. Yes, that's edgepeptide.com. Or you can just give them a call today at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation? What do you think the Tennessee Titans free agency moves have been so far? And I have a question just real quick.
Why is our TV not working?
Well, that too. Underrated Titans storyline from this past season. I think that we need to talk about. What has everybody decided to do with their mayonnaise cologne that ended up buying that crap? The mayonnaise cologne that he sold, that Will Levis sold, that he shilled.
Right. Well, he's still on the team.
But what does everybody do? I want to know, did you break it? Did you throw it away? Is it still in your cabinet? Did you actually wear it? What did you do with it? Not Will Levis, but the people that actually spent money to buy something so silly.
If you like it, I don't know if if you like the way it smelled. I mean,
It smelled horrific.
Hey, it wasn't terrific. I didn't have it. So you bought some?
I did for a bit.
So what does it smell like?
It smells like mayonnaise.
So if you bought it, I want to know what you do with it.
It smells horrible. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Because that's what people were saying.
But it's not good.
Yeah. So I want to know from the people that bought it, first off, what was going through your head? Second off, what did you do with it since? What have you done? Because Joseph kind of thought that maybe people shattered it, somewhere. Maybe they just threw it away, tossed it out. Did you give it as a gag gift to someone you hate? I want to know. 615-737-1045. Tennessee Titans made 2 free agency moves yesterday. Dan Moore from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Dan Moore Jr., I guess I should specify, from the Pittsburgh Steelers, left tackle, played there for 4 years. And then also Cody Barton, who will be on his 4th team in 4 straight years, 4th different team in 4 straight years. Prior to that, he played with the Seattle Seahawks for the full length of his rookie contract. Then he went from Seattle to Washington, from Washington to Denver to here. And I got a couple of different questions about both these signings now that we've had 24 hours to really kind of let it sink in. But when you saw it come up on the screen or come up in your phone in alerts for Tennessee Titans signed Cody Barton, what was Blaine Bishop's first reaction?
Oh, man, I need to find out who that is.
Hey, at least you're honest.
Hey, I don't know. I cover, the Titans, so I'm watching them specifically. I'm not watching the Broncos or any other team like that in depth of, who they are. So I went into, did some research on him. And, he's a quality linebacker, mostly a special teamer early in his career. But one thing I can say is about his skill set, and that is he's probably not here to be the cover guy, but he's capable. It's just that's not his stick. He is not going to be covering tight ends running down the field. That is not his stick. Now, as far as his tackling, and his numbers speak to this, is his read reaction on how to read the triangle, as Coach Mack talks about, is A+. A+. It is no question about it. So I don't know if that's a good match with Murray and they kind of complement each other. So that's what I was trying to think about.
Yeah, because if he's not covering the tight ends,
right? So
we know Murray can't cover the tight ends.
So who's covering the tight ends?
Cedric Gray can't cover the tight ends. Otis Reese can't do it. James Williams can't do it. Who's doing it?
Yeah, so that was more my concern. I thought, he's definitely a plug and play. Naturally, he got the big contract, so he's going to be there. So that was probably the only thing. I like his verbal communication out there. He's very aware. I mean, so he looked like a seasoned vet. Only thing you could just say is more his cover skills. But other than that, man, I actually like what I saw when I watched him. I was pleasantly surprised for a guy I didn't know about, and I thought he was just a special team guy.
Yeah, I think he's very solid,
Solid player.
And that's kind of where the rubber meets the road for me, because you're talking about a guy who in his entire 4 years made $3.6 million with the Seahawks. He made $3.5 with the Commanders the following year, made $2.5 last year with the Broncos, and now you're turning around, and after it has been reported that you've been in the linebacker free agency pool all day long, so your resources ran out because they all signed elsewhere, and then you pay this guy $7 million per year. That's a huge step up for a guy that has historically been a special teams guy. Now, listen, he has great tackle numbers. I get it. And it does
over 100 multiple times.
Yeah, and he does not missed tackles, which is a lot more than I can say for any linebacker for the Tennessee Titans last year. They were missing tackles everywhere. But when you start talking about game impact, he's not an impact linebacker.
Yeah, he's not a playmaker. He's not a playmaker like in a pass game. No.
Because we're talking about out of 55 linebackers that played 600 defensive snaps, he was 54th in defensive stop rate. He was 42nd in total number of defensive stops, but because he played so many snaps, he had a 3% stop rate, which is the 54th lowest out of these 55 linebackers. He tied for 13th highest yards per reception. He had only just two tackles for losses last year, Blaine. He was 28th in average depth of tackle, which
sometimes that's scheme related on that one, though.
And that was a little bit, 28th is obviously average for these 55 linebackers. But he was 49th in run stop rate. So we talk about him tackling, but his ability to stop the run in a run stop rate is one of the worst in the NFL. But again, he doesn't miss tackles, but you're not paying him to be a solid guy. You're paying him to be a starter. And this isn't really a guy, when you look on the tape, he's kind of like Dennis. You know who he reminds me of? Dennis Kelly. He may get you through a season and all that kind of stuff, but you don't pay him this kind of money. And this, to me, when we talk about a team that has preached patience over panic, does this move sound like that? Because I question it because, again, they were in the linebacker market all day. Dre Greenlaw, shortly after this news came out, Dre Greenlaw went for $11.6 million per year, I believe. So $4 million difference between him and Dre Greenlaw. And I think we can all agree that $4 million is well worth it for a player of Dre Greenlaw's caliber.
Yep.
But I look at it and I go, you were in the linebacker market all day. You kept missing out on linebacker after linebacker after linebacker. And then this screams that you pay a guy almost more in a contract than he's earned in 6 years of being in the NFL. That kind of screams like panic to me.
Maybe, but I'm going to give them, this is the first go round. I want to say that the linebackers will complement each other. I think we get steady Eddie with Cody Barton, and you know what you get. And then we get playmaking ability with the athletic, bigger guy who's inconsistent in Murray. So I think that's what they're trying to accomplish.
Gotcha.
I like what I saw as far as the run game reacting. Man, his reads, I love what I was.
He ain't doing much at the line of scrimmage, but he ain't going to let you go too far.
Right. Well, he played in a base formation 4-3 where there wasn't a lot of blitzing by him. And, so he was a react guy, reading, schemes and systems. And I think he puts a lot of work in there studying film. And I think it could possibly work out for both of those guys. Now, think about this. Then you have the young guys who are coming up and along, Williams, Gray, and then we got Otis Reese. So to me,
I really like when Otis Reese is on the field.
I do too, by the way. I thought they misstepped and not put him out there sooner. I think it was their first year learning who he really was and what he could actually do.
Kind of like the NWI thing.
Right. Well, to me, then that means you're not evaluating correctly. Yeah. That's on the coaches, by the way.
On the coaches.
Yes, and that's two different times now. I've seen that they made some missteps there. I think they went kind of with names and things, but if you watched Otis Reese, he was a playmaker and he figured it out and he was ready to rock and roll. He can run, he can do a lot of different things. So we'll see how much he contributes it now. He's going to be a backup. But guess what? Then now you have all these guys as special teamers who are linebackers, as long as they stay healthy as backups. And guess what? If it doesn't work out and we take Cody Barton out in passing situations, then who are you putting out there?
Right. That's
and now remember Murray. Remember they switched Murray, and I think this is why they made this move. They switched Murray, and all of a sudden he started making plays in the passing game.
Yeah, because he was going after that quarterback.
Yeah. So he said he got a pick. He should have had 2 picks in one of the games. He dropped one. I think it was against the Texans. So you start seeing him being a playmaker. So maybe that's what they're thinking, that they will complement one another. And I think that's how you should always think, because you don't want the same type players at the same position. So I actually think this is going to be solid. I just hope that he doesn't get exposed in the passing game. Really. He does enough. But if somebody really wants to attack him, let's don't put him in space to do that a lot in games. So we shall see how much that happens. You didn't see that a lot in his film either. When against the Broncos, you could just tell when it happened that he used more his smarts and anticipation on passing game than his skill set to just cover guys. Which, a lot of those
does have green dot experience. If people, I know people value that, but when Alex Singleton went down, because he almost didn't make the team for the Broncos last year. And then he makes the team and is thrust in that spotlight. But I just worry. I have the same. It feels like the same old song and dance. Because what did we talk about last year heading into the season? Man, just don't. If a team passes up the middle, you're kind of screwed. And it seems like we're in that same situation because guess what? They both Kenneth Murray allowed the highest passer rating from inside linebackers last year. He had 131.3 passer rating when he was targeted. Isn't that crazy? To think about.
It's probably he didn't realize he was going to be that much in the passing game.
That's probably true. But I look at it and I go, it's kind of like the Dan Moore thing, and this is where I struggle with it. I understand filling the position, and I understand the player. I just don't understand the thought process behind Cody Barton's high price tag. That's why, to me, it feels like a panic move. I understand Dan Moore is a left tackle, and maybe there's a bunch of people bidding for him. But at that point, late in the day, how many people are outbidding you for Cody Barton? And that's kind of where I look at the logic of it, and I'm just like, that feels a little bit more panicky than I think I want that signing to be. And this is a team that... I think they kind of still overpaid Kenneth Murray last year, and this is a similar contract you gave Kenneth Murray on face value, and we saw that Kenneth Murray was good, but the stuff that we didn't like about Kenneth Murray on tape showed up all year. And I look at Cody Barton, I'm like, well, I like what I see when he just diagnoses really quick and goes at the ball and goes at the player. But what about all the other stuff a linebacker has to do? And some of it, I think, is just physical limitations, not necessarily what's in between the brain. To me, Kenneth Murray is what's in between the ears. Mm-hmm. For Cody Barton, I think it's everything else. I think that he diagnoses, you put them together, you have one complete linebacker. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Well, that's why I said they're complementing one another.
But then when we say that, though, and maybe I'm being too literal with it.
No, I know what you mean.
But what it sounds like is, but we still don't have that third element. We have 2/3 of a linebacker right now.
Okay, the part that we're not talking about is what were the other options?
Right.
And who could they actually get?
Yeah.
And I don't know who else was out there. I'm not looking at the free agency. I don't know if you did or not. So I'm just looking at what they got, and then how does he fit in this scheme and system and complement the other player? So this obviously is somebody they targeted, or that he was high on their list. If he wasn't first, then he was second or third. So, and in today's world, $7 million for a starting middle linebacker is not that bad. Did they overpay? Probably so. He's probably a $4 or $5 million guy.
I mean, again, he's getting paid like the 18th best linebacker in the league. I'm not necessarily saying that that's an overpay, I guess you would say. I feel like it doesn't feel as much of an overpay as it feels like a panic pay, which then kind of makes it seem like an overpay. It just feels like, man, we missed out on a bunch of these guys. And I don't know if he's that much of an upgrade over an Otis Reese or someone in the draft.
Well, I think they're going to play different. Are they going to play the same position, you think? I mean, maybe, but I don't know. How good is, what was the linebacker that we had? Spillane.
Yeah, Spillane.
It's Spillane. What did he get?
He got $37.5 million, $33 million guaranteed, and that wasn't over. There wasn't a non-overpay.
What is that per year? Yeah. So you give me all these numbers, but what is that per year? We're talking about. I just want to see how much more.
$12.3 million.
See, so when you start looking at the big picture, I go, I guess that's okay, and I can't get caught up in. Do I think they overpaid? Man, that was a lot for a guy who was just a good player. But that happens sometimes when you get on the market. So you got to take that into account. I think his value, I think he's a solid player. Is he elite or anything like that? No, but I love players that you know what you're getting, and he is consistent throughout. When you turn on the tape and watch him, this guy is a magnet. I mean, and his read, diagnose, and reaction is on a high level, and that's what's got him to this point. And I also like his background. He's still going to be hungry because he was valued only as a special team player until he got his opportunity when somebody got hurt, and then he just then took off from that point on. So he was waiting for the opportunity. Sometimes those dudes, especially he's sharp too, he's a really smart football player. I like having that guy, especially at middle linebacker. We can cover up some of his deficiencies. So sometimes you got to start making sacrifices as coaches when you're signing. When you can't get the elite dude, every player you get is not going to be a perfect fit. But you say, can I work with this guy? And you go, absolutely. That's kind of how I look at this one. Is he a high-value athletic guy? That is not his stick. No way, no how. Murray's that guy, and typically those elite-level athletes aren't the sharp dudes out there who are reading diagnoses. You get ups and downs with them, and that's Murray. We get this guy, Mr. Consistency.
So let me ask you this. When you see his fit in this scheme, and I'm going to ask you, in this particular scheme, how much are these linebackers asked to play man coverage?
Ooh.
Because that has been the big thread. When I see analysts talk, because there's going to be some analysts that say one thing, some analysts say other. So I look for the common threads. Like there's your extreme negatives and your extremely positive about every player signed, drafted, whatever. So what are the common threads? The common thread has been that he is much better in zone coverage than he is in man coverage, which is obviously, kind of shows up.
Yeah.
So where do you think is his fit in that for this team? Because how much do they ask their linebackers to play man coverage?
Well, there is something. I'm going to go here first, though.
Okay.
I love that question because they do some man, but it depends on the team they play. But how about this? Teams don't have to play when you give up the yardage they gave to the Commanders.
That's true.
And then the next game, that won't happen with this guy out there.
He's a plus addition for when I think the Commanders game, that's a plus addition.
Right, and then it was the game after that, they did it again. And who was that?
The Jacksonville game,
yeah,
right?
I was like, oh my gosh. So guys reading wrong. I mean, so we got to stop the run. And so then we get to where we can get after the quarterback. So here, I think they're going to play a little more zone because they don't have the pass rushers. This scheme is built where they like to get after the quarterback, but you got to have some dudes that get after the quarterback. They really don't have that yet. So I'm interested to see. They have to make a play. To me, if they were going to be desperate, I know it wasn't anyone out there really to get that big elite pass rusher, but I sure would be signing some of these Darius Smith and some of these guys like that of that ilk right now to make sure that I got some tough son of a guns that's going to get after the quarterback. Is
it the safety play that can cover up the line? Because we obviously can't rely on Kenneth Murray or the rookies to do that. So is it safety play or the edge rushers you think that cover up the
I think
best?
it work hand in hand.
Okay.
Yeah, this scheme and system works hand in hand. So I think it'd be more safety, dime guy that's covering the tight ends where they can just, roam around and make plays. So again,
who's that guy for the Titans right now? They don't have a safety.
They didn't get your guy Holland, man. He signed with the Giants,
which is really weird. But I don't want to move on to that yet. But so what you're essentially saying that okay, he's fine is what you're kind of saying. When you're talking about this defense and Cody Barton, and the thing that plagued this defense last year was missed tackles and just not getting tackles. You weren't even anywhere in the vicinity. Reading their gaps, gap discipline, right?
And this guy got that.
He's got that.
Yeah.
Now, your coverage issues, your passing issues, still a problem. But at least you've solved one big problem from these linebackers, and that is gap integrity.
Yes.
And that is diagnosing plays. And if he's your green dot, because I got into an argument last night, with some guy. He's like, oh, he's a backup. I was like, this dude's not a backup. Follow the money. He's getting paid to start. Yeah. And he's your starter. So, I don't know what that says about Cedric Gray and James Williams and all that kind of stuff. I guess you can't rely on them, to be that guy. But this doesn't prevent them.
No, what I'm going to ask you, I'm going to just add this in. Now you give yourself one more year because guess what?
One more year, yeah.
Kenneth Murray's contract is up after this year.
So someone needs to show up.
Yeah, right. See, so it'll all play itself out, right? Or if someone gets injured, we just have to speed up the process. So you're trying to buy some more time for the next guy who's going to be the guy.
Could this guy fill the role that Ernest Jones left? Because when Ernest Jones was here, they never really had these issues. I would argue that the Green Bay game they did. Do you think? Okay, this is a great question that we just stumbled into.
He's not better than Ernest Jones,
right?
But he can still.
Do you think that the Green Bay game and even the Jets game. Those games are back to back, and we saw Monty Hooker miss a spot, but because he wasn't because the linebackers were out of position, right? But he missed a big tackle that lost him the game.
Right.
We saw that they were constantly out of position in the run game against Green Bay. Not as bad as the Redskins, but they were constantly out of position. Is this a guy that can make sure that everybody is doing their job as well as he can kind of change how maybe we look back on those games? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No. I would say yes, but I want to say he's a great communicator. When you're at that position, you're going to give it the green dot. I think he understands where everybody's supposed to be because he has to, because it helps him be a better player. So I would think he can command that kind of gravitas, being a leader and the green dot guy. Yes, I think he can.
And maybe you need to secure that if you see that the linebacker market is dwindling, right?
Yeah.
You need to find that guy, because that was one of the things that we talked about. I would have paid Willie Gay a little bit less, but maybe this guy's more durable and more reliable. But at the end of the day, you were always coming into this free agency looking for a linebacker that could do what we're kind of talking about. Make sure everybody's lined up. He's in the right spot.
Always.
He can make tackles, and he doesn't miss tackles.
Yeah.
You really want a coverage guy too.
Right.
But again, at that point, when you're in third downs, you're probably in a different formation where maybe he's off the field
right.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that's what I think.
Because I don't know if he's I've seen people say he's a 3-down linebacker. I don't know if you can be a 3-down linebacker and be that bad at coverage. I think he was a 3-down linebacker last year out of necessity.
Right. And that could be true. I'm interested to see him. Even at training camp, you'll see if how well he can run and change directions. But one thing that's an old adage there on defense is if you can't stop the run, you can't stop them at all.
Yeah.
Because then they can then run the ball, and now we also can pass. So I think this is kind of shoring up some of those problems that they had at linebacker, those, handful of games.
Yeah, it was a stout linebacker market this year. Is one of the better linebacker. In fact, the linebacker and safety both have been really good, really high quality players. So we'll see how the Tennessee Titans can attack the safety position when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here, 105 The Zone.
Did you know Eurofix has a very different business philosophy? They staff all their locations with more staff than the average auto repair shop, just so they can be ready for when you have an emergency that pops up out of nowhere. So have you ever noticed how hard it is to get a right now appointment for a vehicle repair? Some dealers can be more than 2 weeks out just to get a freaking appointment, but not Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without the dealer pricing since 1999. Plus a 3-year nationwide warranty and the staff to fix your car right now. So if you're tired of waiting forever to get your car into the shop, then call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes says we will never be too busy for our customers. We're here to take their pain away, and we mean right now. And Eurofix repairs all European cars, and Eurofix says yes to speedy repairs when others can't or won't. Family owned for 26 years. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always tell them, Blaze, hit ya.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation. Listen, if you just want to call in, tell me I'm just too cynical, because we were just kind of talking through it, and it's just like, I look at these players being signed and all this kind of stuff, and like, you're paying Dan Moore $50 million over 2 years, in the first 2 years of his contract, and everybody's like, well, if you just get average play, then he's worth the money. Right. But is he? Because he's being paid like top 4, so like you should be expecting above average left tackle play. And then people are like, well, he just needs to fix all these things, and that's, but we got Bill Kellen. Yeah, but that was the same stuff that we've talked about, with NPF. Oh, you just got to fix this, and then you can get at least average tackle, right? Like, if you just got average right tackle play, that's all you needed. And then if you fix this, then, J.C. Latham, and like, again, I'm not trying to disparage the reputation or the staff. It's just for me, it's hard to look at this team and be like, to have faith. And I commend fans that have undying, unshakable faith in this staff. But like, it's hard to go through a season like that, bring back almost everybody the same, and kind of say, okay, well, you said all this last time. We said this about this player last time. What makes it different this go around?
Well, it's different because it's different administration up top.
Okay,
let's start there. And even though the coaching staff is still the same. But here's what happens in free agency. All these guys, that's what free agency, that get overpaid.
Yeah, but and don't these guys never live up to their contract? So at what point does the NFL got to course correct?
Oh, well.
See, that's to me, the NFL is just very out of whack right now.
Well, it keeps increasing, so I don't know if it's ever going to, it's always been that way.
It's just going to look that way.
Yeah, but at some point, he may get cut sooner than later if he just is average. I'm talking about Moore Jr., Barton, all these guys, even Ridley last year. Anybody who's just average, they got to be above average. That's why they had to get him to 1,000 yards. They had to, because they're going, we got to justify this money we gave him.
Yeah.
See that? Yeah.
It's tough. Like, you need more than a but. To me, it's just like everybody looks at it like this, and this is kind of what drives me nuts. Well, they're better than what you had last year. Yeah, but what you had last year led to a 3-14 team. That's not that hard to get better at something like that last year. You got to get better as a team, not just at one spot. And is this the right allocation of resources? Like, to me,
you may be right on that point, but what are your options?
I know. So, like, to me, I look at it and go, okay, I understand that Morgan Moses, for a 35-year-old right tackle, got paid a lot of money, right? Like, he got paid a lot of money. But he got paid less than what you're paying Morgan Moses. If you would have got Morgan Moses, who only allowed 2 sacks last year, at the same price, could you afforded Javon Holland? Because they reportedly they weren't moving off the $15 million. They wanted Javon Holland less than $15 million. And we'll get more on that later, but they wanted to give Javon Holland less than $15 million. This is what Ari Merov reported. So could you not have maybe done Morgan Moses, J.C. Latham, probably get the same situation that you're getting with J.C. Latham and Dan Moore, cheaper, but you improved it with Javon Holland?
I'm going to go back to this.
So I just wonder.
So if you're building for the foundation, why are you going to go get an old guy?
Yeah, but I mean, like, I look at it and go, you still kind of are with Javon Holland. You maybe not with Morgan Moses.
Well, Holland's not old.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. You kind of are rebuilding.
Right, you're rebuilding, but I'm talking about the age of the actual player.
Yeah.
So the Moses think, but dang, once we get right where we need to be, then he'll be a free agent.
Yeah. But it kind of buys you time, right? It's almost like a bridge tackle, because you have so many holes. I just wonder if the allocation of resources was used correctly, and that's kind of where
you always can say that. But once you get to free agent, you become a player in it. You kind of get caught up.
Do you think every NFL team kind of gets a little panicky at free agency, like a little bit hectic?
Once you get close and then, another player is getting involved with another team.
Yeah.
So, when there's another, 2 other teams involved, it's just always going to be tough. Especially here, the Titans being in a small market, they're always going to have to overpay.
Because everybody's like, they overpaid all these people last year, and we're not doing that this year. Yeah, you are. You're overpaying both these players by a wide margin.
Free agency.
I mean, but that's, I guess, just how free agency is going to be from now on. Everybody's going to get either slightly overpaid, grossly overpaid. Some people grossly underpaid in my mind. So we'll see about that. Let's go to Cheeseburger in Florida. He wants to talk about Tennessee Titans. Cheeseburger, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
What's going on, Blaine? What's going on, Zach? How y'all doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Good.
I'm doing good. I moved out here back in August with my family and stuff. We're doing good down here. I'm still pulling for the Titans out here because I'm a diehard Titans fan, and I'm a Florida State fan too, in college football and basketball. Hey, I like that move the Titans did of picking up that tackle. What do you see do you see the Titans maybe getting some more players in free agency, maybe going after maybe I don't know, maybe a big name wide receiver, and also, hey, look out for Vanderbilt tomorrow in the SEC tournament. I think they are the sleeper team, and I think Vanderbilt could make it to the SEC championship this weekend. I want to see them get a good seed in the NCAA tournament, baby. Let's go.
Let me before you hang up. What's a big name free agent wide receiver you'd be interested for with the Titans?
Shoot, just throw it out there, and I'll tell you. I don't know.
Okay. All right. You're good, Cheeseburger.
Moore.
So, to me, there's not a big name free agent wide receiver I'd spend a lot on, but they are not done in free agency. I mean, this is day 2, and they haven't even officially opened free agency. They still got many, many holes.
I got one big name.
Go ahead.
NWI.
There you go. That's technically is a big name because of how many letters are actually in it.
Hey, man, I would have already thrown up some Cody Barton type deal with him.
Yeah.
I got to have some security
that
blanket.
wide receiver market's a little out of whack too.
I can't believe guys are getting $11 million.
It is insane.
For 1 year, Hollywood
and Matt
too.
Collins too.
The production's not matching up with the pay, but I think that's where we're at in the National Football League.
We shall see. When we come back, we'll get to Doug. We'll talk more. There's a couple of questions in here that I want to get to because we're going to talk about Javon Holland. We're going to talk about Dan Moore. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
Hey, folks, I've been talking about Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance for years because they're the leading experts in sports medicine and performance and the team physician for the NFL, college, and high school athletics across Tennessee. And TOA provides sports medicine coverage to more high school and college sports teams than any orthopedic group in the state of Tennessee. They have 29 locations throughout the state and over 100 physicians throughout Middle and East Tennessee to take care of all your musculoskeletal needs. And TOA has 11 urgent care locations with walk-in availability 7 days a week. They offer direct access to sports medicine and performance, physical therapy and nutrition, personalized rehabilitation plans to enhance mobility, reduce pain, and improve overall physical function for patients recovering from injuries or surgeries. And TOA also offers sports performance training, a specialized program designed to enhance athletic performance and provide tailored training solutions for athletes at all levels. So please check out their services at TOA.com. Yes, that's TOA.com.
We've got the trucks, all the trucks, all the trims, all the towing, all the bells and whistles, and all at Truck Month Savings. Two Rivers Ford is Ford Truck Central.
It is 1:59. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The NFL's legal tampering period continues as the AFC South is making headlines. Quarterback Daniel Jones is signing with the Indianapolis Colts on a one-year deal. The 2019 first-round pick of the Giants was released by New York in the middle of the 2024 regular season and joined the Minnesota Vikings practice squad. He will now have a chance to compete for the starting job with 2023 first-round pick Anthony Richardson. The Texans are trading 2022 first-round pick Kenyon Green to the Eagles for safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson. This is the second starting offensive lineman the Texans have traded away this week after dealing left tackle Laramie Tunsil to the Commanders a couple of days ago. The Tennessee Vols baseball team back on the diamond tonight as they host West Georgia for a midweek matchup with SEC play just on the horizon. The Vols have an undefeated 16-0 start to the season. To this point, we'll look to continue that against the Wolves in this one. First pitch scheduled for 3:30 p.m. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2, Hour 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation. Of course, Coach Mack will join us at 2:20. Let's talk to Doug, who wants to talk about free agency. Doug, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, Doug, good show and good evening.
Good evening.
I definitely agree with the fact that, Hitman said it, pay is definitely not matching up to performance. Getting old guys to cover old holes is not exactly how you build a roster. But I said this last summer. There's not one player presently on last summer's roster that will make it into the new stadium. The question that I'm wondering is Coach Callahan building a roster for the future? Was he preparing a roster to fight for his job? You guys look at the last year's roster. You tell me who's going to make it into that new stadium. Because it's all about butts in the seats, and losing don't do that. I ain't listening.
Yeah, that's a good question. Because we kind of talked about this. What do these moves tell you, Blaine? Obviously, I don't think linebacker is a big deciding factor on if Brian Callahan keeps his job. But when you look at the left tackle, the market for left tackle, the pay of this particular left tackle, the play of this particular left tackle, does this look like a move of a coaching staff that's wanting something now versus wanting something later? What do you think?
Well, I think when you're building an overall team, regardless if you're in a first year going into second year head coach,
need a left tackle regardless, right?
You do. So I think when you're talking about foundation, you always got to build in the trenches. The games are all won in the trenches. I know everybody talks about the star and skill guys, and it's been putrid, as a unit for whatever reason, different players over the last couple of years. So I think they felt that if we're going to fix anything in overpay, we're going to do it here. And I think that's what happened. And then, then when you get on the market, now you're competing with free agents and the price keeps going up for other positions. And you go like, that's a little too much for our pricing. Maybe we'll get some average starting guys or role players that can fill some holes along the way. And got to remember now, it's not over with. There's still, not just day 2 or 3, but you have the, 2 different tiers of free agents. So, and then we have the third tier. So got to be patient and see what they get. Did they miss out on a really good safety in Holland? But what I would say is, hey, maybe it was not meant to be, and you get a quality safety at $7 million instead of get one at 15, and then your unit works really well, and maybe you sign 2 players, not just at safety,
right,
but now you get another player. So to help out the team. So, and you can go sign another quality receiver that at least can fill the gap for a couple years. So, we shall see. This is the first time for this group of administrators, Bergazzi and crew and Brinker and everybody else together. So we shall see what they put together, and let's kind of be patient to see what it looks like, after training camp, and see if it looks like anything that's feasible to say, hey, we're going to be very competitive in every game. And then we got the draft. So let's not forget that. I mean, I don't know what you think, but, man, their moves make me think they're probably going to take Cam Moore. I have no idea.
They got to sign some edge rushers for me to fully buy in on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are some edge rushers out there.
Right. I mean, they got time. I'm just not saying that's over or anything, but, I got to see these edge rushers come in.
I do, too, because I want to see a couple of those guys.
Because there's nothing right now on this team that says that they're for sure taking Cam Moore, when you can look at the edge position and say, well, they could take Abdul Carter.
Yeah.
In fact, you look at the wide receiver situation. I know what they said about Travis Hunter, but I don't know if I fully believe that. I look at Travis Hunter could be a pick. At this point, it's just I got to wait for the rest of free agency to really see. I think everybody's being a little premature that it's Cam Ward or bust based on one day of free agency now.
I think it all depends on what happens.
I can see why they think that, but I think there's a lot of ways to look at it.
What the Giants do here, because they're kind of the ones that their jobs are on the line here too. So they have to get a quarterback. So are they going to sit back at 3, or are they going to sign a veteran, or are they going to trade with the Titans?
Yeah.
So, man, and I don't know if I would trust anything about the Giants. And they got weapons now, so they just got to put in a quarterback, man. Somebody told me that the Neighbors, or I read it somewhere, Neighbors had only played 14, 15 games. They had, 1,200 or 1,400 yards?
He was awesome.
And just imagine if he had a good quarterback.
Yep.
What his year would have been. This was his first year. I'm like, ooh. So they have pieces already there. They just need the trigger man. So maybe they go.
And they
better.
just revamped their entire secondary. I think the oldest person in their secondary right now is 25 or 26. Ugh. They just revamped that as well. They got Malik Neighbors, and like you said, they still have all their draft picks currently right now. So we'll see what that situation is right there. 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation? So I went to pro.nfl.com. That's where you can get all the all-22 that the NFL cuts together and everything. That's also where you can get some more of the next-gen stats they don't put out there. So I went to search for Dan Moore because I wanted to watch his sacks. Dan Moore Jr. And it says right here, so I went to his insights. So these are little stats that they grab.
You found something good, didn't you?
I did. This is great.
Okay, good.
Dan Moore Jr. allowed 16.5 sacks this season, the most among any offensive lineman with at least 200 pass blocking snaps. So this came head into the wild card. Now, PFF has him with 12.
I was going to say, I thought he was 12.
So that's where people have to understand is that this was been my big thing about next-gen stats throughout the season is that they do not quantify whether it's a quarterback's fault or not.
Oh, gotcha.
So there may have been 16.5 defenders or whatever, sacks happened that came through Dan Moore. But it does not take into account anything other than that. So I look over at PFF where they take that out, right? Because everybody's like, well, Russell Wilson was a lot of the reason for those sacks. Well, PFF already takes that out. They take Russell Wilson's blame out. They take coverage sacks blame out and all that kind of stuff. So that 12 sacks are on Dan Moore in their eyes.
Right. So they're saying 4 of them was on.
Yeah. So basically 4.5 would have been on Russell Wilson or maybe a coverage sack. So I went through and started watching. And boy, oh boy, you can see why they went 6-5 down the stretch under Russell Wilson. And you can see why Justin Fields was the better quarterback at 4-2. But
Tomlin's a great coach.
Listen,
and that was a great call by him.
I'm going to say this.
It was not.
I will say you shouldn't have gotten greedy with the draft pick. capital, because that's why they benched him. Because if Justin Fields played 51% of the snaps, they would have had to give up, I think, a fourth or a third or something crazy like that. But Justin Fields made that offense a lot better than what people want to give him credit for. And I think that the New York Jets are kind of probably thinking the same thing. Because you go watch, because I wanted to watch Russell Wilson's sacks. Because that's where 10 of his sacks came from when Dan Moore came from when Russell Wilson was under center. 2 sacks in the 6 starts with Justin Fields. So maybe there's a little Cam Ward situation there where maybe a mobile quarterback can help buy Dan Moore time or something like that. But I went and watched that entire offensive line and the quarterback situation, Russell Wilson. Neither of these guys helped one or the other. I mean, there's times where Russell Wilson has 0 time because both tackles are just getting obliterated, which, hey, guess what? That sounds familiar. And then there are times where he drifts and runs and scrambles into sacks. Boy, that sounds familiar.
Oh, yeah, Will Levis drifted left.
Yeah. And so I'm looking at this situation. I'm like, man, how did this team go 6-5, but the Tennessee Titans team couldn't even go 3-14? I mean, they went 3-14. Like, again, I will say Mike Tomlin, kudos to being able to get that crew at 6-5. I'm sure that defense had to do a lot of heavy lifting, but they got
lost
exposed
at the end there. What was it, 5 games in a row?
But, like, I will say this about Dan Moore. They gave him no help. He was out on an island. But he's being paid right now like a guy that should not be getting any help. So you're going to get it. But, man, one of the first sacks I saw was Dafe Owe, linebacker from the Ravens.
Yeah, the Ravens. Yeah,
he came through and he just slapped the hands of Dan Moore away like it was nothing and got a 10-yard loss on a sack.
So much for that length, huh?
Yeah, because he's a long guy, right? He's got 34.5-inch arms. He's got a good wingspan, but his hands are a mess. So there's one thing that Bill Callahan's going to have to work is his hands placement. Right? That's a number one on Bill Callahan's I got to fix this list for Dan Moore is those hands. Okay? And on top of that, if he's going to get long-armed, even though he has long arms by edge rushers, speedy, bendy guys give him problem. You know, he also just kind of looks at people go inside of him. Like when a defensive defender cuts in between, if it's his guy and he's able to win the first move, the edge rusher is able to win the first move, he just looks at the guy go by him. That sounds familiar too. I just caution people because I know that there's like someone said that there's the pass block win rate, right? It's like 93%. Well, he only has to hold up his block for 2.5 seconds.
You make it sound so easy.
Well, I mean, that's not easy, but that's also not the standard length of a play.
Yeah.
So you have to hold up for longer than that. So that's kind of like a false, sense of security or confidence when it comes to, because when you look at this, he still allowed a lot of pressures. It's not as bad as what I think it's supposed to be, but still, again, it's not as bad as probably what it kind of sounds like when I put out stats or put out information. I just, again, they paid a premium position, a premium money for a non-premium player. And,
well,
that's where, and at best, he's league average.
Yeah, he's a league average player, but I think they're hoping with Bill Callahan that he can be more consistent and continue the uptick of his development because you see him get better. Even if you go back to, I wanted to go back and watch the Titans game a couple years ago. And and wanted to see what he looked like then. And you say, okay, dang, he looked better the next year, even though against elite level players, pass rushers, which everybody probably has one except for the Titans. But, and so it's just like, okay, he's getting better with more reps. I just wanted to see quicker. And to your point, once you hit the market, you're going to get overpaid. And he's an average starting left tackle. An average, I think everybody would take at this point in time. And I think that's where they got stuck there and say, if we don't get him, who are we going to get?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely feels that way. And I wonder, I did think that he did a good job handling. I was watching the Commanders game. He handled Daron Payne pretty well. So I think he can handle the bigger guys that are a little bit slower than he can the pure edge rushers.
Speed guys.
But that's the problem, right? Josh Allen Hines. You play him twice a year. I mean, that's a guy, speed rusher. Travon Walker is pretty athletic as well. And that's the Jaguars, And again, I'm not saying that Travon Walker is some elite guy, but I mean, like, he's no worse than Odafe Owe. Right? Like, I mean, he had his problems with Odafe Owe throughout that whole game because the speed to power, pass rush, and all that kind of stuff. Like, there's some issues here that they're going to have to clear up. Can this team clear that up? And that's where it kind of goes. Like, at this point,
Bill Callahan.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. At this point, this is, I mean, again, I understand that the players play a part in their development and all this kind of stuff. But there's nothing that's been said by anybody at the Steelers that he's not a good teammate, not a good leader, not a good player. He shows up, he plays hard. There's no effort issue. So now this comes down to Bill Callahan and his teaching methods. Do they mesh with Dan Moore, and do they work? Because at this point, you're paying Bill Callahan a lot of money. You're paying this guy a lot of money. You got to figure out a way to make this work because everybody's job's on the line. So hopefully their assessment of Dan Moore is that they can at least get average play out of him and make it all worthwhile. That's what it's got to be.
That's the belief you got to have.
That's the belief you got to have. Now you got to do it.
Yeah.
Turn that belief into reality. When we come back, we'll be joined by Coach Mack, get his thoughts on free agency so far. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. It's 2:20 p.m. You know what that means. It's time for Coach Mack and his weekly Mack Attack, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. And as we get to Coach Mack here real quick, Coach, it's free agency, legal tampering period, I guess. Do you think that there is an actual bad team tax when it comes to some of these contract signings and stuff? Is that a real thing within the NFL?
No, it's individualized with the player, what other options he has. They absolutely do. In free agency, in all of my 3 decades of doing free agency, a lot of it comes down to the relationship that you can develop with the player and also with their representation. But look, if a guy is a free agent, I mean, and it's pretty much, when you lay all your cards on the table, it's like jumping on a merry-go-round and deciding when the music's going to stop. And so a lot of that stuff has to come together. But there really is, because the money is money, and that's at the end of the day. There are a lot of other factors that come into it, but money usually is a huge part of it, and also opportunity is a huge part of it. But all the teams, all 32 teams as they stand now, there used to be 28 when I first got into the league. Everybody's going to have a full roster, and everybody's going to have people knocking on their door that want to get into it. So there's not really. You may have to pay a little bit more to win the free agency roulette, but look, the money part of it, guys, has exponentially gone up so much that you really can't equate the money to the value of a player anymore. You just really can't.
So what do you equate the money to? Is that market? Because me and Blaine were kind of talking about that. It's just like it's crazy.
Set, and it's the market. The market sets it, because and the one phrase that I hear a lot, well, he's not worth this. Yes, he is, if somebody's willing to pay it. That's just life in professional football.
So when you see all these big contracts, I mean, you've been in the NFL for a long, long time, gone through all these. This year especially just seems so everybody is paying above market prices. Is this just the new state of the NFL, and these aren't really above market anymore? We have to adjust the market.
Yeah, well, and too, Zach, I mean, look how much the salary cap has increased over the last 5 years. You had a downturn, a major downturn during COVID. Okay, that was shrinkage that everybody had to absorb, but now it has exploded. And the other rule is, and people understand this. I know that you two there do too. A club can't keep all of their money of the salary cap. There's a 3-year period where you got to spend over 95% of it. You got to spend 95% of it in cash. So as long as the salary cap keeps going up, these free agent periods are going to go up. It's just the way it's going to work.
We're on with Coach Mack talking about free agency for the Tennessee Titans. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons. He's brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Well, Coach, in your wheelhouse there, being former DC head coach and awesome linebacker coach, I guess give us your diagnosis, even if you hadn't watched him this season, what you thought Cody Barton would be once he got into the league, and what was your process, if you can look back to then?
Yeah, you know what, I haven't. I mean, I remember I look back at all these notebooks that I keep during the draft, and watching him coming in my notes coming out of Utah with his workouts and stuff. He was a guy that had a lot of short area quickness, and I thought was a good key and diagnose guy, a good trigger guy. I had him pegged. I don't even remember where he went. I had him pegged anywhere from a third.
I think he went third,
fourth round player. I'm not even sure where he was drafted, but I thought that he'd be a functional player in the National Football League, and he's clearly done that.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Well, naturally, they signed Dan Moore for Jr. from the Steelers. And I remember him at A&M, and he seems like he's improved and has the athleticism to be that blindside tackle. naturally he got on the market and they probably got him for more than they wanted to pay. But solid average starting left tackle in the National Football League, you believe?
I think so. Well, I mean, look, Blaine, you know this. I mean, you franchises, they have departments that vet these guys. And then, the coaches are involved. Everybody's involved in the free agency. So you don't ever sign. All the years that I was involved in free agency, very deeply involved in it at all levels, all the way from an assistant coach to a head coach, you never put your stamp on somebody you don't think's going to help you. Now, there's no guarantee how any of it's going to work out, but I do know this. We knew they had to address, and will need to continue to address, a lot of spots on the football team, offensive line being one of them. If this guy, when he comes in and plays the left side, you've automatically, in my humble opinion, you've automatically made two positions better, because you'll move J.C. Latham over to the right side. You got a veteran left tackle. That, to me, at least that improves. Does it make it the best offensive line in the league? That only comes with production. But what it does do is you're starting to get a little bit more viable from tackle to tackle than you were last year, where you clearly had no answer at one of the tackles. You had a left side of an offensive line that was functional, but you had no answer. You really had no answer, especially at that right tackle spot. So I think in that part of it, they've helped themselves.
And I guess in your wheelhouse now, with more so the drafted players coming out of college, give me your top 3 pass rush guys coming out in the draft. I'm assuming Abdul Carter is number 1, but give us a couple other guys that you think are in that top tier that are worthy of being impactful players immediately.
Well, I think Mike Green is going to be able to be, is going to be able to be one of those guys. And then it just depends on what type of edge rusher you're talking about now, at the other one. Shamar Stewart has all the tangibles, but he doesn't have the production. That would be something that would make me take pause as far as to where I was put him. Ezeruku is a guy that I think has got a chance to be really good, coming off of the edge. I think the tiers goes down for those guys, and you said we would take Abdul Carter out of it, but those are just a few names that I think will be guys that will be first round draft picks. Which tier of first round pick, it really is a preference clearly as to where clubs are. The Titans need an edge rusher or 2.
Yes.
They definitely need that. So whatever tier they choose to go with an edge rusher in this league, it may not be the top tier one, but they're going to have to at least find 1, possibly 2 in this draft.
Now, take me through the process when you're a coach and you're talking to the scouting department and you see a player of Stewart's ilk from A&M. And I've watched a lot of film on him now, and I see the effort and everything else. I'm just trying to figure out, what would you say of why he is not having production with numbers? Because, man, his motor is not questionable.
I agree with you 100%, Blaine. I did the same thing. I went back and started really trying to dig into even a little bit more of it. And it is a little bit of an anomaly to me, because anytime you see those type of tangible numbers, those type of testing numbers, and you expect, and you don't see the tangible results, you expect to turn on the tape and see somewhere in there a lack of effort, or you don't see a motor. I agree with you 100%. I don't see that. What I don't see is being able to finish at the top, and I don't think it's a lack of effort. I really don't. What I would love to do, if I was still traveling to schools and teams, I would want to sit down, not only with A&M's defensive coordinator, but with their defensive line coach, and say where, and plus sit down with a player. This would be a guy that I would investigate really, really hard and see what his thought process is, because clearly he's a worker. He's just not getting the tangible results in the ball game, and it's not like he's not getting pressures. But the sack numbers and those types of things just have not come up at all through his career. This is a guy that intrigues me because I would like to get face to face with him and all those involved with him to find out what they think too. Because clearly, I mean, he was a top player coming out of high school, and I agree with you what you said, Blaine, 100%. I was expecting to see a lack of effort or some lackadaisical attributes when I turned the tape on. I don't see that.
Do you see like that he's stiff? And I mean, is there anything that you saw like, oh, well, maybe it could be that? I know without sitting down talking to him, but I couldn't see it. I just felt like that was maybe the only thing he couldn't change at that last split second to change directions, or he would just whiff.
That's a point because he doesn't have what I call, he doesn't have that motorcycle lean, that Gumby flexibility in the lowers. It's not bad. He's got explosion, but that Gumby type of flexibility. I mean, he's not elite. Abdul Carter is elite with that with that lower body flex. I mean, that's what you look for, is those guys that have that motorcycle lean, that can put that inside knee on the ground and then flatten out to the launch point of the quarterback. He is not that, but he's got explosion, and he's got a good speed to power move. So,
is that it? Did we lose him?
Yeah.
Coach, can you hear us? Coach, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. We thought we lost you for a second, but we okay. So real quick, one of the moves I really loved was bringing back Sebastian Joseph Day for this defense. I think he proved to be a very solid, reliable piece on the defensive line, but from all accounts that we are able to glean, a guy that bought into the culture, bought into what Brian Callahan was trying to build, and really kind of became a voice in that locker room. When you see a move like that made where a guy gets rewarded for the work that he did the prior year, what do you think about Sebastian Joseph Day and what it says about this defensive line rotation? Because they also brought back Keondae Coburn, who's just a brick house. I mean, that guy is just like a boulder out there. Do you think that this defensive line is going to be able to gel and be able to stop the run now and maybe provide Cody Barton some wiggle room?
Well, I agree with you 100%, Zach. I'm glad that they brought both of those guys back, because both of those guys, I think the interior of this defensive line is one of the strengths of this football team right now. They still need edge guys, as we talked about earlier in this conversation. But I could not agree with you more that those are two guys, and it's not always. And again, everybody that plays in the league, all the players can't have a big name quote that people may recognize, on the street, but they are very valuable to their clubs. And I agree with you 100%. Those two guys are what, I've always termed as the belly of a roster that you really need. And they understand internally how important they are. I think that the interior of this defensive line is in a good place. They've got to get the edges set on this defense. They've got to find some more safety help. And again, this linebacker core, even with the new addition, that's still something that they need to work through. There's a lot of spots on this football team because we know what shape they're in and what they are trying to systematically rebuild. But I think those two, I could not agree with you more, that those are two really kind of under the radar signings that really, really strengthen what is already a pretty strong point with the two starters in this team.
When you got a player like Dan Moore who's coming into a new system with a new coach and especially a coach like Bill Callahan with his reputation, when you see that maybe a lot of his stuff has to do with technique, his hands are kind of a mess. He struggles to anchor because he's not, setting feet in the base and all that kind of stuff. When you see all that, how easy is that to correct after 4 years of maybe being on a team where maybe those teachings aren't being as foundational as maybe as what Bill Callahan has?
Well, I mean, look, you've only got a certain amount of time as a player to figure out how to progress and how to work on things that haven't worked for you. You've only got a certain amount of time. He's been in the league, and he's been a starter in this league. So clearly he has got some things. He understands what works for him. You get a coach like Bill Callahan that can, if he's receptive, and he should be, to learning some things that can improve him just a tick. I mean, and a lot of it is just learning. I mean, you got a guy sitting right there that can tell you he's probably learned more and improved his game more mentally as he progressed in his career, than you physically. You've got to physically keep yourself in as good a condition as you can. But the mental aspect of it is a huge, huge part of it. The fact that he's been in the league, he's a veteran. And again, when they're vetting these guys as free agents, I mean, you're looking for things not only that they can do that you're relying on when they come in because they're veteran players, you're also looking at things that you can help them improve just a tick. Those are the things that you're looking for. So, I mean, and the move, as I said, I think they got better in both spots just by the fact that now you've got viable ends to your offensive line, which is extremely, extremely important. And look, Bill Callahan is deeply involved in the vetting of these guys. He wouldn't, have vetted him. And again, it's up to the player too, and it's a mesh between the player and the coach. And then, guys, the success of it really comes down to production on the field and winning games. Winning games is what you're looking for at the end. So can you help this football team start to win games rather than the offensive line be an issue that you were trying to overcome during the season?
When you look at this team as how it's currently constructed, obviously there's a big hole at safety. Cody Barton, Kenneth Murray both have their struggles in pass coverage. You got the rookies behind them. When you're talking about maybe attacking the middle of this defense, this Titans defense, if you're on offense with tight ends and slot guys and all this kind of stuff that cross over the middle of the field, how important is it to maybe find a safety that can cover, that middle area of the field at this point in time for how this defense is currently looking?
Well, I mean, it's a middle of the field game in this league anyway because of the way the hash marks are. So, I mean, it's extremely important. And what you'd like to have, and really, Zach, the way defenses are set up, I mean, I meet with a lot of defensive coaches the whole week that I'm at the Combine to find out what trends are. The trends now, I mean, when I first came into the league, and a little bit, when Blaine came into the league after I came into it, but he was still in that mode where people talked about strong safety, free safety type of thing. It is an interchangeable piece back there now. Yep. When you're talking about guys that are playing on the back end and that are starting out mainly in two shells most all of the time because of the different offenses you see and the motion that you're seeing now that's even more than it ever used to be. The changing of personnel, changing the formation. So you need somebody that can be really functional in all of those areas. So you ask me if it's important. It's really important, and it also helps the defensive play caller because now you're not having to switch personnel constantly to match personnel. You're able to do what we try to build a defense that is same as, where that you've got two guys back there that are kind of interchangeable with what the offense is presenting you. Not only what you worked on, but what you presented with during the ball game.
Well, as always, we appreciate your insight, Coach Megan. Hopefully next week we'll have a lot more players to talk about besides just two.
Guys, I always appreciate talking ball with you. See ya.
See ya. That was Coach Mack, obviously brought to you by Tours, Ford, South's most trusted Ford dealer. And when we come back, we got some breaking news for the Tennessee Titans. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
Do you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by all Four Season Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. And we talked about at the top of the show, I said the Titans technically still need a punter, and put that Breaking Titans news sound on. This first comes from Chris Thomason of the Denver Gazette. He says, Agent John Perla, who is Ryan Stonehouse's agent, tells Denver Gazette the Titans won't tender Colorado State University punter Ryan Stonehouse, and he'll be unrestricted free agent versus restricted free agent, which would have been the lowest tender, is actually $3.2 million. So I was way off on that, by the way. And the quote says, thanks to the Titans for the opportunity. We understand teams make difficult decisions, and they're going to move on. And Justin Mello confirmed this report, and then he also followed it up with this. The Titans did not go into detail regarding why, I don't know why you put that in all caps, but why they are moving on from punter Ryan Stonehouse. They simply told Stonehouse's camp they are going in a different direction. Ryan Stonehouse will punt for another team in 2025. So the Titans need a kicker, they need a punter, they need a wide receiver 2, they need a slot wide receiver, they need an edge 1, they need an edge 2, they need a right guard, they need a bridge quarterback, and a safety. Did I hit everything right? I think that's it. Because they got their long snapper all secured up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. It could be franchise quarterback.
It could be franchise quarterback. But, I mean, I'm just talking about what they need to get in free agency, really.
Oh, okay.
And a kicker.
And I said kicker and punter. Right. Please listen to the show if you're going to produce it.
Oh, man.
So
where are
you at on this? I mean,
it sounds like to me that they're just moving forward on special teams. They don't want to spend that kind of collateral as far as money with the kicker and the punter. So they're going to go with some young guys and go and see if they can develop
any Titan that crossed paths with Mike Vrabel, now's the time to enter free agency while Mike Vrabel still has a job, because he's overpaying for everybody. He'll probably give him a 5-year, $150 million contract or something.
I don't know. He always would talk about Stonehouse's not getting enough.
Yeah, sure. But like, I mean, at the end of the day, you can only kick so far. But you got to start kicking accurately. You got to start kicking up in the air and get you some hang time. You got to do all this other stuff. You can have all the talent in the world. If you don't know how to use it, it doesn't really matter.
What do you think about Harold Landry signing he went to Boston College, back to New?
Well, listen, they did a really good thing. His agent knew that, hey, this guy was part of an organization that overpaid my client once. So let me make sure that we go to the guy that will overpay him again.
Oh, my. That's what happened?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, my.
But, like, at the end of the day, I kept trying to tell people that, hey, they may need a punter. He's a free agent. Last year, I was kind of brought up, this past season, I brought it up a football and other F words, like maybe they need to go ahead and work out an extension for Ryan Stonehouse. Because I kind of thought maybe they'll keep him. And as the season goes on, and we get in, I'm like, oh, I think they're going to need a punter. And I kind of want to throw this out there. Was Colt Anderson right all along? He got fired, but he kept trying to tell people that the punting was a big issue, and the Tennessee Titans seem to agree.
Oh, I thought he was talking about more coverage because his punting,
he kept saying that outkick coverage,
was not bad. So it's always conflict on how far you kick it, or are you kicking with height so your coverage unit can get down there. And all those guys who make the Pro Bowl, it's conflicting sometimes with what they asked you to do because they want you to hang it up there a lot.
I got it. This means that they're drafting Cam Ward and they're not worried about punting.
Cam Ward and punting, how's that?
Yeah. They're never going to have to punt because Cam Ward's just going to score all the time.
Oh,
see, there you go.
We got it solved.
I am sure there are people out there that kind of think that.
Maybe Cam Ward can punt too.
Maybe he can. Let me ask you this: is last year it was like the Bill Callahan Rehabilitation Clinic is coming to Nashville. They hired Bones Fossil. So is this going to be like a Bones Fossil situation where he's saying, "Well, we're going to get my guys in, but because I don't believe in your guys." where it's different than what Callahan was, because Callahan was like, I can fix them. Bones Fossil maybe saw something and said, yeah, we need to find a new punter and we need to do this. We're going to totally redo this whole special teams, which isn't a bad way to approach it, by the way. I'm just saying maybe that is the situation we're looking at.
It could be.
Maybe a little different approach, a more heavy-handed approach.
Yeah, especially with his reputation in the National Football League. So it could be that, but man, I like Stonehouse, whether he was, positional, angle kicker to getting height to distance. Man, he's a good player.
So all during Coach Mack's talk, the chat was much in shambles. They discovered it on Twitter, the news that Ryan Stonehouse was not being tendered. It's a very sad place in the chat. They're very sad that that Stonehouse is leaving.
Yeah, that was a great call by you. I didn't even know that was even a possibility that he wouldn't be back. So
I always forget about punters when I'm going through free agency. The Titans have always had one, right? I mean, they went from Brett Kern to Ryan Stonehouse, because you never really had to worry about punter. And this is the first time in a very long time the Tennessee Titans have punter as one of their holes on their roster that they have to fill in free agency, or maybe the draft. I don't know. Again, guess we're going to have to start turning on the punter prospect tape. See where Coach Mack is next week on his punter draft process.
Mm-hmm. Well, it could have been negotiations too. That Ryan Stonehouse wanted to have, maybe he wanted at least $3 million, and they're talking about in the 1.5 range, and they just said, well, we'll just cut this off now. We'll just go get us a kicker and punter that's in this range as far as pay. So yeah.
It will be interesting. I guess at this point, where do you think the Titans make a move in the next 24 hours, or do you think that tomorrow at 3 p.m. we'll see some more moves pop up? Where do you think the Tennessee Titans are going?
Oh, I have no idea at all. I'm going to say, and I said it earlier, what's the range of where are we trying to bring back NWI for a security blanket?
I mean, I am just kind of surprised that
I thought Vrabel would up the ante and make it difficult. I
really thought that we'd already see, but he signed Matt Collins and he signed another wide receiver, and I'm like, okay, he didn't go after NWI. I'm a little surprised by that.
I was too.
And so maybe they're just kind of waiting out his market right now, because there's going to be other wide receivers that get signed before maybe he does, and they're going to be like, hey, maybe next week, NWI still on the market. Because like I said, a lot of these Titans free agents, as far as I know, the only Tennessee Titan, 2024 Tennessee Titan free agent that's been signed has been Harold Landry. I can't think of another one. If that lets you know, and there's a lot of guys that can go ahead and sign with teams. A lot of people in Tennessee value the Tennessee Titans way more than the NFL does. These former Tennessee Titans. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Also, a good signing, too, was the cornerback Baker. We must not forget that they signed him, too, as well. Not today. It was, I think, yesterday.
Jackson has a tweet from Ryan Stonehouse. Here's what Ryan Stonehouse had to say.
Stonehouse said, "Thank you, Nashville. I'm so thankful for all the relationships I've made in Tennessee. They will stick with me for the rest of my life. I'm excited for what the future holds. Seems to be confirmation."
There you go. Ryan Stonehouse. The Stonehouse era, grand opening, grand closing in just a few years.
Well, he probably says, oh, thank you, because I got killed the last couple of years.
He's probably thinking. Just real quick, I think right guard is going to be the next big thing signed. You still have Kevin Zeitler out there. My boy Brandon Sheriff is out there. Heard he's being a little stingy on his asking price. Mekhi Becton, Will Hernandez, Greg Van Roten, Matt Pryor, Tristan Colon, obviously Dylan Radins and Daniel Brunskill are also out
I thought
there.
Becton signed with somebody, no?
Nope, he hasn't signed with anybody yet, so he's actually a free agent, so there you go. Still some really good guard options to really make this, at least on paper, this offensive line look better than last year. That will do it for us today. We'll be live from Bridgestone Arena tomorrow for the SEC basketball tournament. We'll be there tomorrow all the way through Friday. If you guys want to come say bye or say hello, wave at us, we greatly appreciate it. It's been Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. 3HL's up next. And in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.